Presidential Guard, trained in part by the United States, had the sole purpose of protecting the presidency. And yet on July 26, 2023, they overthrew the democratically elected government. Guys, come on, you had one job. Meanwhile, critics say that the president of Niger was still basically under a form of French colonial rule. Now, 5 countries in Western and Central Africa have been seized by military juntas, and all 5 of them were former French colonies. But all hope isn't lost, because in response, a bloc of West African nations told the coup leaders that they have to reinstate the ousted president or face military intervention. It would be like if the Secret Service overthrew President Biden tomorrow, and then Mexico and Canada got together and said they were going to invade the United States to put Biden back in power. It's that exactly. The reason this is so concerning to the rest of the world is because in the past 18 months, Africa has experienced a wave of coups in Burkina Faso, Chad, Guinea, Mali, Sudan, and now Niger, leaving all of us to wonder what the heck is going on in Africa? What can the United States, France, and other Western countries do to prevent this coup from staying in power, if anything at all? And what is the Russian Wagner mercenaries' influence on all this? I'm your average infantryman, Chris Cappy, and today I'm going to try my best to untangle this big old cluster. Why do the events in Niger even matter to you and the rest of the world? Part of what makes Niger geopolitically important is they're the world's 7th largest producer of uranium that's used in nuclear power. They also have minerals and oil reserves, as well as a strategic role in the fight against Islamic militants. This makes them important to the United States, Europe, as well as China and Russia. Stability in Niger is also very important because they neighbor other key countries like Nigeria. If the majority of the continent of Africa is thrown into war, the vital mining and oil operations will shut down, and no one wants that. It's easy for someone with my level of understanding of geography to forget that the African continent is only separated from Europe at its closest point by just 14 kilometers between Morocco and Spain. Because one of the concerns in Europe is that the instability and war in Africa will create a migration crisis, sending thousands of refugees their way. It's easy to forget that European countries often shoulder the burden of instability in places like Africa and the Middle East. For example, in 2015, 1.5 million war refugees fled to Europe from Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Although migration from Africa to Europe is more difficult than from the Middle East due to the lack of a land